Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Hey everyone, and welcome to Raising Parents, the Parenting Science Insights podcast, produced by Ella Massal, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Dina Sargent. Let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode. Now, nutrition plays a vital role in the mental, social, physical, and behavioral development of toddlers and of children. Now, today, children can be subjected to an imbalance of nutrients, which can affect their day-to-day life, such as obesity, mood swings, and physical sluggishness. Joining me today to share her thoughts and academic expertise on nutrition science is Associate Professor in Health and Wellness Studies at Binghamton University in New York, Dr. Lina Begdache. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lina.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Dina.
Now, along with working with students in nutritional sciences, you're also a certified nutrition specialist scholar and a registered dietitian nutritionist, as well as a fellow of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. With all those range of expertise that I am barely able to pronounce, can you tell me a little bit more about your role in sort of expanding the knowledge on nutrition for children?
So just to give you some background about my education to help the audience understand where I'm coming from. So yes, I'm a nutritionist. I'm a nutrition scientist. I'm a registered dietitian, but also I'm a biologist with a neuroscience focus.
Okay.
So I combine my expertise to give you information about not only the physical health, but I'm also be able to give you more information about the brain health.
Okay.
So parenting is, this is not really my expertise as far as a professional person, but I can talk about my own expertise as a parent. I think it's one of the blessings that people could have being a parent. It's an art and science that it's not taught in school, so you learn by experience. You learn by hearing stories from other parents. And it's a dynamic role. It changes as the child grows and you're faced with challenges, you're faced with successes sometimes. Overall, it's really a nice, noble role. The aim always is to teach kids, to help them grow physically, developmentally, socially, spiritually as well. Like you want them to be good people, successful people at the end. So, but it's overall, it's a beautiful role.
Mm-hmm. And looking into some of your research expertise, have you found some of the most common problem that parents, and you can also use this as your own personal, being a parent yourself, what have you found to be the most common problem parents face when it comes to a child's unhealthy eating habit?
I think sometimes there is not much education given to parents about what they should be feeding their kids. Obviously, when they go and see the doctor, but sometimes parents seek information from the internet, and not all information online is accurate. Sometimes I feel that parents may resort to what's convenient, what's easy, because they don't have the time to cook themselves. They're working, they're handling different responsibilities, and the lack of education sometimes adds to what the children are fed, and maybe sometimes economical issues could play a role. So yeah, there are so many factors that could interplay to affect the physical and mental health of a child, as well as the risk for weight gain and obesity.
Mm-hmm. And while we're on the topic of you and learning a lot more about you, I love to get to know some of your interests and some of your hobbies as well, by playing a little game with us, a little introductory game.
Okay.
Now, do you have a favorite hobby that you would love to share with us today?
I love to paint.
Oh, wow. Do you paint
Yeah.
often?
Only when I have time.
Okay.
And it's it it hasn't been that often recently, but yeah, this is like a de-stressing activity. And I feel like it moves me to a new world where it's like stress-free world.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite medium in particular that you like painting in?
um, Not really. What I like to actually paint is I don't like I like to paint abstract stuff, and I like to paint on stuff. So sometimes I get like a statue, which is like just white statue, and I add my own uh, colors to it. For example, I can
Oh,
do
wow.
that.
I like that. No, I really like that. I think that's such a great stress relief. It's whatever you want to do with it. It's like they say, it's a blank canvas that you get to play
Right.
around with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, do you have any activities that you particularly enjoy?
I like to exercise if I have the time. I like to travel and explore new cultures.
Mhm. Oh, that's nice. How often do you travel often?
Um, Actually, when my kids were in school, we had more structured vacations because they had the summer off. So we used to travel a lot
Mhm.
over the summer. But now with their schedules being all over, we try to fit some vacations every now and then.
Oh, that's really nice. No, I love little like vacations here and there. Not like one big one, but like little tiny weekends away or things like that, which
Yeah.
is really nice. Now, when it comes to the scientific topics, do you have any in particular that you follow or that you really enjoy listening to?
I love to listen to podcasts or lectures on the brain because, like as I told you, this is part of my background, educational background, and I feel like there's a lot to discover about the brain. So this is fascinating to me.
You're definitely in the perfect area, perfect field then. Now, when it comes to role models, do you have someone that you find yourself looking up to, whether it's in your personal life or whether it's in your professional life?
I do have, but there are actually many of them. It depends on what I'm looking up to. So if it's parenting, my dad taught me resilience, being fair while also being strict about certain things. So
Mhm.
he is my role model from that perspective. My mother taught me love and compassion for the family and how much family is important. So she is the role model for for these for these things. As far as for teaching, I feel like I had a teacher when I was in fifth grade, and he had actually taught me to be a good teacher. So different things that happened in my life, I feel like I was looking up to certain people.
Mhm. No, that's nice. I like the different mentors or the different role models rather than just one particular person.
Yeah, I feel like I like to look at like certain aspect in many people in my life and like something about them and look up to them because of this characteristic.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's really nice to hear. Now, when it comes to the final question, what inspires you in life?
Um, a compassion, doing good for humanity, especially with people who have endured a lot of hardship in their life and they can still do good things. I feel like this is really an inspiration to me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some interest on you, but also some of your career and some of your academic research as well. Now, to get into our topic today, I know that everyone has a very different understanding as to what being a parent and what parenting is. So, what would your definition on what parenting be to you?
I think it's a parent can really plays a major role in the child's life, because the children absorb everything they see and they learn from their parents. So for me personally, I love being with my kids, playing with them, being the friend when they needed a friend, while being a parent when I had to step in for certain instinct. So I feel like children like to be friends sometimes with their parents, and this can strengthen their relationship.
No, that's really nice. I think I love the balance between being a friend and being someone who is your mom and who is sort of there to sort of teach you right from wrong. And I love the relationship between that because I think you can't really force your kid to trust you. And if you want them to listen to you, they have to trust you.
Right, true.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, what do you think that expectant parents need to be aware of in their transition to parenthood?
So, I'd like to talk about a topic that's not really well covered, and it's not really something that you may be reading about it online. And this is
Okay.
the impact of the lifestyle of a person on their offspring. Have you ever heard "you are what your grandmother ate"?
Yes, I've
Okay.
heard that one. Yeah.
So this is a new field of research looking into what's called epigenetics, and epigenetics is like passing down, or it's like changes that happens not in the DNA itself. It's like how your genes work, and these changes are dictated by our lifestyle. So for all the young people, it's very important for them to realize that what they do may affect their offspring, and not only the first generation offspring, but the second generation as well.
Hmm.
So the quality of the diet they consume, their sleep quality, their stress level, substance abuse, all these exercise, whether they exercise or not, all these factors induce signals in our body, and those signals affect our own genes, but also they can affect the the genes in the eggs, because women are born with their eggs. They affect the genes in the sperm. Men tend to have sperm after they reach puberty. So whatever we do is actually impacting our offspring through a generational effect. And this is very important because sometimes we pass things to our children because of things we have done, and sometimes if we had known that these things would have affected our children or our offspring, we probably would have thought twice before doing that.
Hmm. Okay. So, and our topic today being sort of the unhealthy diets and what to sort of watch out for. What would you mean by unhealthy diet for a child?
An unhealthy diet is basically a diet that does not promote health,
Hmm.
whether we're talking about physical or mental health. A child that may A diet that may lead to weight gain, a diet that may affect the developmental stage of the child. All these could fall under the unhealthy diet. So it's a broad term.
Well, thank you for helping us define what an unhealthy diet is. And I did want to ask you, especially on our topic today, why is it essential and why is it necessary for us to address the impact of an unhealthy diet, especially on a child's health and their own well being?
Well, it's very important to understand that a child's development goes through stages. And if there are any deficiencies or excessive intake of certain nutrients happens uh, during a window of development, that may have a long-lasting impact. So this is why it's very important that the child meets all the recommended intake of all the essential nutrients. So when they're going through this stage of development, they don't miss out on maturity, the full maturity of the organ, of the growth. Even the brain is highly impacted by such deficiencies.
Mhm. And I really don't want to ask the dumb question that's coming into my brain, but it is a question that I feel like I hear nutrition or nutrients so often in conversations. But what exactly is nutrients? And how do you know whether it's a positive or negative nutrient?
So a nutrient is something that provides a nutritional value to the body, to the organs. Food could be either nutritious or it could be an empty calorie. For example, sweets, processed food, fast food. This is still considered food, but it's not a nutrient-dense food. So it doesn't
Okay.
have a nutritional value added to it.
Okay, so it's
Does that answer your question?
yeah, it does. It sort of separates
Ah,
what you eat for enjoyment and what you eat for basic survival. Is
correct. Yeah.
okay. Well, no, that's really interesting because it's I always hear nutrients so often. Like I'm recording episode on healthy diets or unhealthy eating habits, and I never really asked that question. I always feel like I want to, but I think I was like, okay, you're the absolute perfect person to ask what a nutrient actually is. So thank you so much for answering that for me.
My pleasure.
Now, when it comes to some common dietary habits, what do you find that are some very common ones that can contribute to a child's health issues and also their weight concerns?
Um, I think like skipping breakfast is a major issue because breakfast provide this initial energy for the brain and for the body. So children who skip breakfast tend to have less energy, less focus. Um, Constantly snacking, and snacks obviously are not the healthy snacks. Um, Sometimes eating mindlessly, like when they're watching a movie, when they're watching TV, they're playing games, they're just eating without even thinking what they're eating. Sometimes this lead to overeating.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes also skipping meals. The same way a breakfast is important, it's also important to keep on providing the energy, the nutrients throughout the day to the body. So it's very important that children have breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day.
Mhm. So, are there certain times that a child should be eating? Like, does it depend on the time? For example, breakfast. And I know, especially when it comes to adults as well, there's that idea of, okay, I'll have brunch or I'll eat like at 11, 12 o'clock, and that will be brunch. That will be breakfast and lunch all put together. That would be one meal. So, does it really depend on the time that is should be beneficial for the body?
So we're thinking about a body that's growing, right? So in order for a body to grow, it needs a constant nutrients. So by eating brunch, you probably be skipping a meal. Adults don't need that much of nutrients and energy compared to a growing body. Obviously, it depends on the age of the child, but it's important that the child meets all the nutrition demands, and it's hard for them to be eating large amount of meals, especially if we talk about small children. So this is why it's important for them to have those 3 meals a day.
Okay. Now, how does an unhealthy diet affect a child's overall health, especially when it comes to thinking more long-term effects?
So, like as I said, if if we're missing certain nutrients during an important developmental stage, this may have a long-lasting effect. So I can provide you with examples for a child who has some vitamin D deficiency. They end up with having rickets, where the bone is bending because of the bone is soft. Vitamin D is needed to help with the absorption of calcium. So calcium provides strength to the bone. If the bone is missing calcium, so the weight of the child is gonna be bearing on the bone, and the bone bends. So rickets is an irreversible condition unless there's a surgery performed. But even if you give a child after a certain amount of time vitamin D, it's not going to fix the problem. So as this example illustrates a deficiency, there are many other things that could happen affecting the normal development or the maturity of an organ. Sometimes it's not easy to see it in the naked eye, like rickets. It may be affecting the health of a child, especially the brain. The brain also matures and it ends its maturity by mid-20s. And there are specific areas of the brain that matures at a certain age, at like different ages. So if a child is missing certain nutrients, that could have an impact. Something that is very important for a parent to know is the importance of the omega-3 fats in the child diet. As the brain is mature, it's making more brain connections, and those connections are wrapped by a fatty substance, which is made of the omega-3 fats, and these come from fish mostly. So if a child is not eating fish or not getting any source of seafood that's are good in omega-3, those brain connections are going to become slower. So the child may have a focus problem, may have a memory problem, may feel even their mental health could be affected, and it could be just because of having a deficiency in these omega-3 fats.
Okay. So that means when it comes to those tablets, because I know growing up, I used to have those fish oil tablets that I was pretty much forced down my throat each and every day. So does that hold a lot of the nutrients?
Well, you have a smart mother.
Well, that's good then. It means that she did a lot of things right, which is great to hear. And so does that hold a lot of the nutrients? Are those beneficial for a lot of the omega-3 that's needed for a child?
So, like as I said, the growing brain, the maturing brain needs many nutrients. And I only gave the example of the omega-3 because many children don't like to eat fish. They don't like to take fish supplements, which could be affecting their brain. Now, there are many other important nutrients that are needed for the brain maturity and function. But even if a child is eating a healthy diet, but it's missing those omega-3 fats, the brain can still be impacted.
Okay. Well, that is very scary, seeing all these lists of different nutrients that's very much needed for a child to grow. Now, speaking of family and the family environment, what are some of the common influences that a child usually sees within the family that can sort of affect how they see food or how they see what healthy and unhealthy is?
Family's behavior toward food is very important. Like as I said earlier, the child is like a sponge. The child grasps all the behaviors, all the attitudes of the parents. So if the parents have certain behaviors with food, it's more likely that the child is going to have the same behavior. Then the social aspect is also important. For example, when they go to their friend's house, what kind of food they're seeing, what kind of behaviors they're seeing, the behaviors in school, what kind of food is offered to them, what their friends are eating, or enjoying. So all these have an impact on how the child see the food or think about the food.
Because I know of a few videos that I used to watch growing up, like family vlogging channels, for example, and I used to see some of their ways of getting their children to stop snacking, for example, like locking the pantry door or like hiding things away. And I always felt like if you hide your kid away from all these things, they're going to do one, they're going to do it behind your back. Two, they're going to do it a lot when they get to friends' houses or when they go to birthdays. They're going to really be hyped up on sugar because of that. So how do you set that boundary between, I mean, I know kids are kids, they're going to try to enjoy sugary stuff, of course, because it's sweet and it's full of sugar. So is there a sense that we should be blocking them from having it, or is it sort of in some amounts that they are able to have some?
So there's this saying in nutrition, moderation is key. I think it's okay to allow the child every now and then to have some treats, but don't buy them in bulk. Don't put them, especially if the child has learned that that eating could be an emotional or could be helpful for their emotions. So, for example, when I used to go to the supermarket with my kids, I would ask them like if they want to buy a piece of candy. They would do it every time, but I would not buy things in bulk and leave them at home, because it teaches sometimes the child to resort to these kind of snacks that would provide you with the quick boost of energy and mental energy. And unfortunately, these can, the same way they increase the energy and the well-being very fast, they lead to a crash, which could bring the mood down as well.
Okay. So, what are some signs for parents to sort of look out for as well when trying to identify if their child is being a little bit more unhealthy than they really should be?
Behavioral change. Sometimes the research has shown that our diet has an effect on our behaviors, our mood, our stress levels. So if things are changing with the child, maybe there's, I don't know, things happening at the school with the diet. Like I know for some time my son, when I used to give him his lunch to take it to school, and for some time I noticed that he was gaining weight, although I had control over what he's eating at home, and then I learned that he was always exchanging the healthy food for the snacks and the unhealthy stuff. So um,
Yeah. No,
so like behavioral changes, when maybe a change in the weight, in their energy level. So these could be an indication that the child's diet maybe is different from what they're having in their own house.
okay. And for a lot of parents sort of wondering, like I know that when I spoke about this topic with some of my friends as well who have young kids who are sort of being a little bit more impressionable now at that age where what they see their parents do, they copy. And when they think about it, how do you transition or what are some tips that you can offer to a lot of parents who are wanting to sort of transition into a healthier family unit or a healthier family lifestyle rather than sort of just focusing so much on the snacking or focusing so much um, on the unhealthy side? How do you sort of, what advice can you give them to sort of help them transition into a healthier diet for the family?
Be the role model. Start by changing your own diet, your own health. get into the healthy habits, the child will eventually learn that from the parent.
Mhm.
Um, at at one point, I was actually making the mistake of cooking for myself and my husband, and cooking for my 5-year-old because he wouldn't eat most of the food I would cook until I realized what I'm doing. I'm actually teaching him that it's okay not to be eating the healthy food just because he was very picky. So one day he came home from school and I said, "This is what you have to eat." And he said, I don't like to eat that food. I said, "Well, good for you. This is what we have." So he didn't eat for an hour or two, and then he got hungry. So he started eating this food. The taste buds change. So
Okay.
when we train our children to eating healthy food, they probably would not like it from the first time, not the second time, but keep on trying because eventually they will like it because the taste buds can change, can adapt to new tastes.
Okay. So it's sort of like a momentary situation rather um than a forever situation.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to some misconceptions, do you have any on childhood nutrition that you'd like to address with us today?
Um, yeah, I think the first one, the one that I just mentioned, that we as parents are always afraid of our child not eating because they don't have the food that they like. Eventually, the child will give in uh, and will eat whatever food is there just because they're hungry. So try to give them the healthy option, even if it doesn't work from the first time. It
Okay.
will eventually work.
Okay, perfect. This leads us in perfectly with our practice and habit part of the show. This is some of your own practices that you do, whether you do yourself or you do in your household. Now, for today, what is a practice that you do to manage your own well being?
I try to focus on stress reduction. There's so much stress between juggling responsibilities between work, family, and and I try always to focus on reducing my stress level
Okay.
because I know how much it can impact health and mental health as well.
Okay. So, what do you have a specific practice that you do to reduce stress?
I like to listen to music.
Okay.
I like to practice positive thinking. So I challenge my thoughts when I have something that's that's on my mind. I like always to challenge my thought and turn the negative thinking into positive thinking. Exercising helps, um, and and sometimes you can think about what's in your life that is a stressor. Sometimes we can get rid of those small things that are causing stress. So um, yeah, I think that's what I try to do.
Well, there's a perfect list. That's actually a perfect list, including with painting and all the hobbies that you
Yeah,
mentioned
right.
earlier as well.
Yeah.
Now, what are some challenges that happen that can occur when trying to um, reduce the amount of stress that you feel?
Um, I think sometimes finding the time, if I'm overwhelmed with work, with responsibilities, finding the time to actually step back, think about my own well-being. So mostly finding the perfect time. Sometimes, like even if I want to do my stress management thing, probably it's not the right time to do it. So most
Okay.
of the time, yeah.
Okay. So, do you have alternatives that you focus on, like something small, for example, if you're not able to sort of sit down and do painting or go to exercise, is there something that you do to resist that?
So I can try to multitask. For example, if I'm working on a paper, for example, or I'm working on a time restricted thing, I can listen to music while working. So I try to incorporate multiple things, or I can be listening to a podcast while exercising. So multitasking sometimes can help.
Okay. It's a good thing we get good at multitasking.
Right. And women actually are good at it.
Yes. I mean, we have to be.
Yeah.
So how do you think that this practice impacts your home life as well as your personal life?
Um, I think it makes things easier because when you stress out, so there are two types of stress. There's the eustress and the distress. The eustress is a positive stress.
Okay.
The distress is a negative stress. The brain chemicals change when you have the eustress. When you start thinking in a positive way, when you do things you know these are helpful, then even though you may have the stress, it becomes a motivator. Whereas when you have the distress, it's an inhibitor. You feel like you don't have the energy to do it. So I think sometimes trying to control your own thinking while doing things that would motivate you can help you turn the distress into eustress.
Okay, well that's perfect. I love that answer, and I love how much you've sort of managed to learn from a lot of the different kinds of stress that you sort of feel. And it probably does help that you do research a lot of the neuroscience that goes into it as well.
True. I love what I'm doing because I'm learning also myself.
Well, that's good. That's the benefit of it. Now, this leads us perfectly well into the last section of our show, which is the open mic. And this gives you a chance to talk about something that you are passionate about, that you feel the audience really should know, or even just sort of reiterate what we've spoken about today. So in the last minute or so, I'd love to give you the floor and just share what's on your mind for us today.
Well, as I told you, I'm fascinated by the brain. I love to learn, to keep on learning about the brain. And we're just learning new things because of the advancement in technology. Because of those advancements, we were able to learn how the diet impacts your the brain function, the brain chemicals. Unfortunately, the brain doesn't work the same way as the other type of organs, meaning that if we lose brain cells, we're not able to regenerate them. So there are many things that could lead us to losing brain cells, including stress, lack of sleep, poor diet, lack of exercise. And unfortunately, by the time we realize that we have dementia, we have so many neural issues, it's too late. So take care of your brain by taking care of your lifestyle factors: diet, exercise, stress, sleep, and no substance abuse. This is especially for the young adults, because I always tell my students, be careful of what you're doing, because the brain is still maturing when it's in the early 20s, and what they're doing could be impacting the full maturity of their brain.
Yeah, it's a scary thought, actually. How much what you do now sort of affects you even further down the line when you don't even notice it.
That's the scary part, is like, unfortunately, with the brain, when people lose brain cells, they don't realize, like, there are no symptoms right away. It takes really a great deal of brain volume loss until people start feeling it.
Yeah.
And as I said, we don't replenish those cells, so it will take a big toll on the person's mental health and cognitive functions as well.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something for us to look into and for us to be a bit more conscious of, I think. I think it's very important. And I mean, you heard it from Lina herself. It is very, very important. And as I listed her credentials a whole lot earlier, definitely someone to look up to when it comes to a lot of the advice.
Thank you.
So I do want to thank you, Lina, for joining me on the show today and for sharing a lot of your research and a lot of what you've learned yourself, and a lot of some of the misconceptions that we've heard about today, and just debunking a few of them that we probably hear on a day-to-day basis.
It was a true pleasure, and thank you so much for having me, Dina.
So if there's a way that our listeners want to find out more about you or even look up some of your work, is there some place that they're able to go to find that?
I think that the easier way is just to Google my name, and they can find so many resources. There's the university website, but I think just Googling my name, they can find articles, they can find interviews. All these would provide some pieces of information.
Oh, perfect. We'll definitely reiterate that down in the show notes and down in the description below, and probably have some of your links to some of your work as well there for everyone to sort of look into. Thank you again, Lina, for joining me on the show today. And I hope that the audience enjoyed our conversation just as much as I did. And definitely go and read and look at some of Lina's work as well, because I've read through some of them and it's very insightful. It's got a lot of data in it that really proves a lot of the conversation and what we're talking about today. So thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you all in the next episode. You've been listening to Raising Parents, the Parenting Science Insights podcast, produced by the Parenting Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it so that we can grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at pa.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Dina Sargent. Thanks for tuning in.